Hi, everyone. Um, Bob German here, and I'm back with my colleague, Ayca Bas. We are cloud developer advocates, and this is part of a series on Bot Composer and how to build chatbots for Microsoft Teams using Azure Bot Framework Composer. And I'm really excited. This particular episode will be on QnA Maker, which is another artificial intelligence service in Azure. And I'm excited to have Aicha on this one, especially because she has a deep knowledge of all the AI technology inside of Azure. Um, so, shall we start? Maybe I'll just start by showing a couple of the features of the bot that we've been working on, which are driven by QnA Maker. Here's the bot. And you can see up here, I asked, what is Microsoft 365? And the bot actually knew the answer. I asked, how reliable is Microsoft 365? And the bot knew the answer. Um, I can also come in and ask some questions like, where is everybody? And the bot will come back with kind of a snarky answer to that. I'm lonely. And it will come back as well with an answer. So these are not hard coded into the bot. These are part of the Q&A maker model that was imported into the bot. So Aicha, this is pretty cool stuff. Can you help explain how it all works?
Yeah, sure. So QnA Maker is another AI piece we use in our project. And I think it is also another feature which makes our bot look really smart. Because when you see all these answers like, am I not a good conversationalist and so on, definitely our bot will look really, really smart. And one of the features we mentioned earlier in previous videos was language understanding intelligence service, which we
Right.
call it as brain of our bot. Today, we're going to talk about QnA Maker. It is another cognitive services provided by Microsoft. And with QnA Maker, we are able to create multiple knowledge bases for our bot. If you quickly go to QnAMaker.ai, so here is the website. You can create your knowledge bases. If you go to QnAMaker.ai, this will give you an option to create knowledge bases. You can either get your questions and answers by typing them. You can type your question, type your answer, and when you train, then your knowledge base will be trained for the related question. Again, you can grab a link from a website. It can be a bank, for example, answering questions and answers. It can be a university institute answering questions and answers. So most of the websites already has questions and answers, such as Microsoft 365 for Business. Just like here, we have questions and answers. You can copy this link on the top and paste it in your knowledge base, and then QnA Maker will automatically provide you question segment and answer segment. With that, you don't have to do anything, only just copy paste the link. When you save and train, then your knowledge base is ready. You can also do that by uploading Word document, Excel document, and there are several other ways to do that. In today's session, we are going to show you how we use QnA Maker in our Who's Online bot using Bot Composer. So when we use Bot Composer, we don't actually go to this website or that website because it's all integrated in the Bot Composer panel. So you will just go to Bot Composer tool and you can handle your QnA Maker all in one place. So, Bob, how did you create your QnA Maker knowledge base
Yeah.
here?
So I started off with an FAQ page, just like you said. So I went to this one and pulled that in. And I didn't actually have to go to QnAMaker.ai except to just kind of get an account on there and to set up the service in Azure. And then I went over to Bot Composer, and inside the settings, one of the things that I had to input was the QnA Maker subscription key, which is kind of the permission for it to write and read these models. Then when I created the model, it actually created everything in QnA Maker. And it also allows me from this portion right here of the bot composer, I can come in here and manage the questions and answers exactly the same as I would here in QnAMaker.ai. But there's a couple of cool advantages, I think, to doing it here, because this actually keeps Lewis in sync, or Bot Composer keeps Lewis in sync with QnA Maker. In other words, I noticed that every utterance that's in, if that's, I don't know if that's the right word, but every question in the QnA Maker is actually also set up automatically as an utterance in Lewis, so that it will know to trigger this intent here of QnA Maker intent recognized. It will go down and actually query, and it also created this whole little piece of logic here for me. I didn't have to do that at all. And so it's way more reliable than when I used to write bots manually. It actually, because it keeps everything in sync. I don't need to remember, oh, okay, well, they might ask about this, which would be a question that should go to QnA Maker, and then I'm separately trying to program Lewis. It's just all done for you automatically. And then inside of here, you can come in and manage the questions. And one of the nice things that you can do, I can add Q&A pairs right there. But I can also add alternative phrasings. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Aicha, but I know a lot of times different people will ask a similar question, but they'll word it differently. Is that something that you have any thoughts of, like best practices, or how do you actually
Yeah.
figure out what to do with that?
So this is one of the reasons we integrate QnA Maker with Lewis, because when we ask how are you question in a different way, we want to make sure that our question is going to the QnA Maker and not to other intents like greeting intent or who is online intent. It directly goes to QnA, because for us, since we have a separate intent for QnA, how are you piece is already trained. But of course, adding alternative phrasing will increase our score. So we will get a highly potentially correct answer from the QnA Maker.
Now, do these phrasings have to be exact, or is it kind of more of like a fuzzy matching thing?
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be exactly correct. When we say, are you okay, for example, and if someone asks okay, question mark, then our QnA Maker still gets that, because it doesn't read the questions like one sentence piece. It also reads word by word. That means when we write how it's going, then if someone just removes it piece, then our QnA Maker can still handle the right question. So it doesn't have to be exactly a full correct sentence.
Well, that's really cool. So I don't need to actually try to anticipate every possible way that somebody would ask.
Yep.
I just need kind of some general ways, like if there's a different phrase or different word order or something that would maybe that somebody might think up.
Yes, that's correct. And also another thing for us is when we are creating a QnA Maker in Bot Composer, what I understood from you, Bob, it automatically generates an intent for us as well for the
Hmm.
QnA Maker, right? So we don't have to do anything in the Lewis, but Lewis also get a connection with QnA Maker. The biggest
Right.
reason of that is because we have many other intents and we have QnA Maker on the side. And let's say there are several questions coming. Where should we go first? Should we go to QnA Maker? Should we go to Lewis? There are several options for our bot to go and get an answer. Just to make sure we are getting the exact answer and the correct answer, Lewis is creating another intent for QnA Maker in the bot composer. If you are building a bot using bot framework, you have to do that manually. But bot composer has direct integration in the background doing all this for you. What happens behind the scenes is you can go ahead and check Lewis.ai as Bob is showing right now. We we have many intents like greeting, is user online, log off. We also have Q&A, who is online intent on the very top. So that means our question is always going to Lewis first, and Lewis is deciding if we need to gather an answer from greeting intent, who is online intent, or Q&A maker. So how we decide the QnA Maker is giving us the right answer. So another great integration is happening behind the scenes of the bot composer. Bot composer, as Bob mentioned earlier, it is getting all of the questions from the QnA knowledge base and training all of the questions here in Lewis intent. That's actually a great feature because all of the questions we add, let's say Bob copied and paste enter 65 for business website. Maybe it has hundreds or thousands of questions. And when we get this link, QnA Maker automatically creates us thousands of questions and answers. But adding all these questions in Lewis to train all those is a big hassle. It is really hard to handle. What is happening behind the scenes from Bot Composer is it gets all of these questions from the knowledge base and trains here. With that, as you see, scoring increased incredibly. If you check out the right side of each question, you will see all of the scoring is 0.9 something, which is really, really great. So this is another awesome feature of Bot Composer, and I'm quite impressed because when you're building a bot from scratch, if you want to Lewis and QnA Maker working together, you have to integrate this and by yourself. If you want to automate it, again, you have to use Lewis APIs by yourself. But instead, you can just go ahead and use Bot Composer. You create your QnA Maker knowledge base, and Lewis also handles all of the logic behind the scenes, and you can get hundreds of questions answered from one piece. I think this is really impressive. What do you think, Bob?
I think it's great because I know a lot of people have built Q&A bots. So if you go to QnAMaker.ai, there's a button you can push that says generate a bot or make a bot. Because QnA Maker itself is just it's amazing what's going on behind the scenes, but from a programmer's point of view, it's just a web service. So you call a web service, you make a REST call with a question, you get back an answer. And this feature that's in QnA Maker website will actually generate the bot for you. That's just this really simple little bot that all it does is take a question, call the web service, and then show the response. So, that's pretty nice, but the reality is that it's really limited because all your bot can do is answer questions. So if you want the bot to go do something like look up something out of a database in real time, or maybe actually carry out some command on behalf of the user, you really can't do that. You're always going to, it's very smart at finding the right answer, but if the answer is different each time, like who's online is not something you can just hard code because it's different depending on actually who's online, right? So I love the way you could take those knowledge bases and without having to go take programming classes and stuff, create a bot composer bot that builds on all the work that you've already done in QnA Maker to actually now start putting some more logic and into some of the intents and making your bot more functional while not losing all the goodness of the knowledge base.
Yes, which is pretty great. And we definitely like using Lewis and QnA Maker together just to make sure we still have the intelligence language understanding service behind the scenes, not just answering the questions available in the knowledge base, but it's able to understand everything we said to the bot. So that's why combination of Lewis and QnA Maker is always the best practice, and they are highly integrated and connected when you use Bot Composer. That's what we wanted to show today in this video. So
That's great.
Before we close out, Bob, do you want to add anything about QnA Maker?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm just really pleased that it's also well integrated in Bot Composer, and and I think I appreciate your detailed explanation. It's really helpful, I think, for people getting started. So, in our next video, we're going to do something that I think I have to say here, I'm from Boston, which is in the northeast portion of the United States. And we tend to talk fast and be kind of aggressive sometimes in our conversations here in Boston. So we're going to learn to do a Boston tradition, which is interrupting each other. How do you interrupt the bot? Oh yeah, you should see me and my wife. We're talking, and it's like totally normal, and we're both very happy. But we're just constantly interrupting each other because that's just the culture here. So um, we're going to actually see in the next video how do you do this in a bot, and it's a little bit more practical because it's like maybe you actually don't want the bot to do something you think that it thinks you were going to do, so you just changed your mind. So how do you get the bot to kind of break out of some sequence and do something else? So stick with us, come back for the thrilling conclusion of the series where we'll talk about how to interrupt your bot.
So check out our next video. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.